Welcome to Chapter 6 of our book, Engaging with Mormons by Dr. Corey Miller. Chapter 6 talks about how the God that the Mormons worship is not the God of the Bible. That's it. The chapter is called God, Who do Mormons worship? The answer is somebody that they made up. The answer is not the God of the Bible. And there's 2 points that Dr. Corey really wants us to kind of grasp here. First, Mormons believe there are many gods who rule over their own worlds. We just worship the one who happened to make the planet we live on. They say there's hundreds, tens of thousands, almost impossible to count, gods out there. And the one we worship is used to be just a guy. Used to be a guy who lived on a different planet, not Earth, who was good enough that he got to start his own planet, right? And mixed in with that is God to them doesn't really create. He just sort of takes matter and stuff that's already existing, kind of forms it and shapes it into like the solar system and universe around us. So number one, Mormons believe there are many gods. So this raises lots of questions, right? We worship the one who made our planet. Why wouldn't we worship the one who made the planet that our God grew up on and stuff like that? Wouldn't that guy be like older and stronger, more powerful? Who knows, right? It just brings in all these questions, right? It's like, is God the most powerful being to them? And it's like, well, not really, because there's like other gods out there. Is our God even the best human that grew up and became God? Like, no way for us to know. So really a lot of what it comes down to is they believe their God is not ultimate. He's not all powerful. He's not all knowing. He's not just speaking things into existence like the Bible talks about the creation. He just was a person, literally. Was like a person who was good enough on his old planet to get his own new planet, and that's where humanity is. So they believe there's lots of gods out there, which is like totally different from the Bible, right? The Bible over and over and over and over reminds us there's one God, there's one Lord, there's one King of Kings. And it just doesn't work, right? It just doesn't compute at all to say Mormons are talking about the same God of the Bible, when the Bible describes God as he's like all powerful, he's all knowing, he's eternal, right? The Bible says God has no beginning and end, right? He is the beginning and the end. He is outside of time. The Mormon God he just isn't all those things. He just isn't, right? He had a beginning. He was born just like any other human being. And so just different. The second one is kind of connected to it. Dr. Miller calls it the law of eternal progression. The law of eternal progression. This means people, it's kind of what we just talked about, but people can become anybody, right? Any human being on earth can become a god or a goddess. Anybody can become a god, and if they basically behave enough, then they'll go to heaven, and they'll just keep getting bigger and better and bigger and better till they become a god, and then they get to kind of become divine and go out there and I don't know exactly how it works, but they eventually get strong enough, powerful enough where they can get their own planet and make their own little people, and their own little people get to worship them. So this kind of leads to a question where Corey mentions that Mormons get a little inconsistent and they disagree with each other about something. Because you can imagine, right? Somebody's a person. They're really behaving themselves. They're doing great. They're doing a good job. They go to heaven. They're on their path to becoming a god. they are becoming more glorious, more powerful, more all the stuff. And do they sort of like get to, is it like levels where it's like 0 to 100, and if you hit level 100 you're a god, and you sort of like max out. It's like, hey, you hit level 100, you're a god, you are um, you get your own little world, all that stuff. Or is it like or is it like there's it's just an infinity amount of like the gods are ever increasing, becoming more and more godly, more powerful, stuff like that. Um, I would kind of, it's not from Dr. Miller, but the way I was thinking about it was kind of like it's like an alphabet, right? An alphabet has A to Z as a beginning and an end, right? You can go A, B, C, D, all the way through Z. At the end of Z, you have to start over again, right? Now I said my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me? There's not a letter after Z. Dr. Seuss says there is, but we don't care about Dr. Seuss. Um, so, is becoming a god sort of like A to Z? If you work your way all the way to Z, are you done? Have you hit the end? Or is it like just numbers? Numbers never end, right? You can keep counting forever. You can count until you die, and then you'll just there'll still be more numbers to count. So, the question. So, how should we think about God, right? So, in one scenario, like if the gods hit a certain level and sort of stop, there's a bunch of gods out there, they're all equal. Um, yeah. Or in the other scenario, if because you're progressing up, right? So you're like becoming a better human, you're becoming better and better in the heavens, and you keep going up and up and up. If it's sort of never ending, then obviously that implies that the God who the Mormons are worshiping, like by definition, is not the greatest God out there. Because, like, by definition, there's another God who created the world that he lived on, that he grew up on, who would be older and like better at all these things. So why would we be worshiping the God who made us when there are older, stronger gods who made the world that he grew up on? So why are we even worshiping the like kind of like mini God when when the religion acknowledges that there's like bigger, stronger, older, wiser ones? So either God is sort of like limited, like we talked about earlier. Either he's like limited and just kind of like 0 to 100 or A to Z. Once you hit the top level, that's about it. Or if it's infinite, right? There's sort of an infinite amount of progression that they could make. Then the God that created the earth, that's Jesus' dad, that Mormons on earth worship, just isn't like he's not the biggest, oldest, strongest one out there. And Dr. Miller talks about how like what Mormons' view on this totally changes based on who you're talking to, right? It's like you're talking to one guy, he says one thing, you talk to another guy, he says another thing. And if we're like what we'll be doing, we'll be going and we'll just be talking to like normal people who have normal jobs. They might not know or even care about this much at all. Some of them may, some of them may not. So, Dr. Miller wants to understand there's like two big points where the God that Mormons talk about just isn't the God described in the Bible, right? The God described in the Bible is creator of everything, right? Like he existed and nothing else existed. Literally, God was there, nothing else existed, right? He spoke to darkness, to emptiness, let there be light, light exists, right? He spoke to there weren't stars, there wasn't like mass floating around that God organized into stars and galaxies, stuff like that. No, he just spoke and then it existed. That's what the Bible would say, right? Like God just spoke things into existence. He existed with nothing. He is the only God. He has no rival. He has no equal. Nothing else compares to him, right? He's all powerful. He's all knowing. The Word of God just isn't that way, right? He started out just as a person living on a planet who behaved well enough. He got to start his own new planet. And he's one of many. One of who knows how many. Maybe there's like an infinite number of them out there. and there'd be some who are stronger, some who are weaker. We just don't know.